If you work in university maintenance, Granger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Granger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRANGER, visit Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Maybe you recognize this voice. Andy Betterman here of the injury law firm Greenberg & Betterman. For over 35 years, we've been helping people in the DMV with auto accidents and medical malpractice. Get a free consultation by visiting gblawyers.com and feel better.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm 12 Kyle. Check this out. On this podcast, what we're going to talk about is nicknames. Now, you don't need me to tell you what a nickname is. I was reading this article the other day, and the article was about something to the effect of the 50 greatest nicknames for NBA players. And so the headline naturally caught my attention, but I'm like, okay, let's see what it's about. And as I read on into the article, I realized that, you know, as far as the nicknames that I was seeing that had appeared on this list, most of them were like made up nicknames. Like, you know, what somebody created, not necessarily what you were given. You know, again, you don't need me to tell you what nicknames are, but just so you know, a nickname by definition is a familiar or humorous name given to someone instead of their real or official name. And so as I'm reading through this list, I'm like, okay, well, you know, these really aren't nicknames. They're more, you know, tags, if you will. They're not real. I mean, just to give you an idea, like there's a guy named Chuck Person. His nickname was the Rifleman. Now, the Rifleman sounds good, you know, when you're talking about a basketball player, because, you know, basketball player shoots and Chuck could shoot. I remember Chuck. But like none of his homeboys called him the Rifleman. You know, there was a guy on there that they named, who was it? Oh, Michael Cage. His nickname was the Windex Man. Now that sounds like a cool nickname for an NBA player, but you know, his mama didn't give him that name. Somebody thought of that and said, okay, hey, this is good for your marketing or your branding or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it got me to thinking like just about nicknames. And, you know, you have the nicknames that are true nicknames and then names that I guess are given to people. And so what I wanted to talk about a little bit on this podcast was just nicknames that are, and to be honest, some nicknames are universal. If you're black, like me, because I'm black, in case you didn't know, there are some universal black names, and I'll touch on those in just a few. But yeah, one of the main rules about nicknames is like to have a legit nickname, you can't give the nickname to yourself, right? It has to be something where one of your friends, one of your homies, somebody in your family gave you that nickname. So it's like you can't make up something, you know, and far too often that's what I saw in this particular list. For example, like one of the first, I'm not going to say one of the first, but one of the memorable nicknames that I remember hearing was when I played Little League football, and there was a kid on my team, and his nickname was Booger Mike. Now, Booger Mike was cool, mad cool. I wasn't around when he got the nickname Booger Mike. I don't know necessarily how he got the nickname Booger Mike. And I later came to find out that I don't even think his real name was Mike. Good dude, great teammate. I really enjoyed playing with him. But it was something, I guess, that he got in the hood, and it just kind of stuck. And, for those of you wondering, no, anytime I was around him, no, I never saw any boogers on him. He never put boogers on people. He seemed to be a really cool, quiet, reserved dude. And that's what I always remember about him. I hadn't seen him in years, but good dude, man. Real good dude. Solid cat. But that nickname stuck out to me. That was something that was given to him. I don't think he was sitting in the playground and said, hey, I'm going to call myself Booger Mike today. So that's what I mean. Nicknames is something that, it's not something that you contrive yourself. Like I said, it's either your family, your friends, the hood, somebody gave to you. And, nicknames come in all shapes and sizes. I mean, obviously, one of the main nicknames is people who are juniors. So if you're a junior, you could have a nickname like KJ or CJ, DJ or BJ, EJ, JJ, or MJ. It just depends on what your daddy's first name was. And then also if you're a junior, particularly in the South, what I've seen, you could be called Junior, or better yet, Junebug. How many of you grew up with a Junebug? I did. Several of them. In fact, I got a cousin named Junebug. You could also get a nickname based on, your size. So what I mean by that is you could either be big, you could be Lil, because it's never little, it's Lil, 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 or you could be fat or skinny. So case in point, you could be Big Mike, or you could be Lil Mike. You could be Fat Tony or Slim Tony. You could be the proverbial shorty, because I know a lot of shorties. Or you could be Tall Sam. I mean, your nickname could be basically something that describes you, that differentiates you from everybody else. Because, if I'll use the name Mike, if there's several Mikes in the neighborhood, Lil Mike might be a name that, stands out because everybody knows Lil Mike. Not to be confused with the other Mikes in the neighborhood, because Lil Mike is the little guy. He could be either Lil because he's short or Lil because he's young. So yeah, that's how that works. Another nickname that is pretty popular. Man. You could be man. You could be fat man, big man, little man. Like I said, tall man. Those are pretty popular. Let's see what else. If you're black, because I don't really think they're white. Maybe somebody white will tell me if they have these nicknames, but I don't. I don't necessarily know that white people are nicknamed after food or any other group other than black people, named after food. So like, for instance, you could be Peaches or Pumpkin, and not pumpkin, it's Punkin, Pumpkin, Candy, Cherry, Cookie, and the ever so popular Peanut. So yeah, you're probably going to be named after one of those foods. Now, nobody's going to call you watermelon or French fry or pizza. No, it's nothing like that. But just, your name's not going to be Carrot John. But if you have a nickname and you're named after food, those will probably be one of the foods that you're nicknamed after. And then some nicknames are just very popular and very universal. I'll give you a few. And of course, there's thousands to name, but I'll just give you a handful of them. There's Boogie, Booger, Scooter, Skeeter, Twine, Bubba, Tank, Ant, Scooby, Shell, Pookie, Bo, the ever so popular Kiki, Ace, Bubba, Pooh, Boo, Missy, Bud, Mookie. I mean, those are just to name a few. And again, sometimes with some popular nicknames, you'll be something twice. So like I said, you could be Man or you could be Ray. It just depends. Or you could have a nickname that goes simply by one letter. G, Z, R, C, T, or my man D. Also, let me not forget, for black people in particular, we tend to name or throw out nicknames sometimes based on your color. So if you're a lighter shade, you might be called red. If you're a really light shade, you might be called yellow. Not yellow, but yella. Yella. And if you're particularly dark, you might just be called black or purple. So yeah, those are just to name a few. So it's always interesting how, nicknames can come about. I guess I should probably also tell you that growing up for me, I really didn't have a nickname growing up. There is a nickname that my mother would call me from time to time. And I've only allowed her to call me that. So I'm not going to repeat it on here. And she doesn't call it. It's been years since she's called me that. But I'm not going to repeat that on here. What else? But I mean, most of my life, well, I'm not gonna say most of my life, all of my life I've gone by my government name, Kyle. And it's always funny because that's my name, Kyle. Like, I've been asked on Twitter before, like, is Kyle your real name? Yeah, it's my real name. But what's interesting is like the pronunciation of it. How my name is pronounced really just depends probably on where you're from. If you're from the South or from the Midwest, or the North, you're probably not going to pronounce it correctly. You're probably going to say Kyle. It's two syllables. It's Kyle, not one. Kyle. But it's cool. Like, I don't correct people who don't pronounce it right. Like, my wife and my parents and maybe a couple other people are probably the only people that pronounce it correctly. Even most of my family doesn't pronounce my name correctly. So it's no big deal. Like, I ain't tripping. Like I said, it's really just based on where you're from, because when I introduce myself, I will say my name is Kyle. And I'm like, hey, what's up, Kyle? Okay. And most of you probably don't pronounce it correctly, but that's cool too. Ain't no big deal. I'm not tripping. So that's been my name. But when I got to high school, I did get one nickname when I was in high school. My late high school coach, Coach Virgil Wells, rest in peace. We were doing a drill one day, and he said, "Hey, go over there and get me that," because like Coach Wells couldn't remember our names. Like for the longest time, when we started spring football practice, we'd have these helmets on, and on the helmet there would be a piece of tape, and on the tape it would be like either your first or your last name. And that way he would kind of familiarize himself with us, or whatever the case may be. But I don't know, man. At this particular time, Coach Wells knew my name. I mean, like, I wasn't just somebody at the end of the bench. I mean, I was a starting wide receiver. And at this time, I was a junior. So anyway, he said, hey, go pick up that cone for me. And as he's stammering and trying to figure out my name, which is on a piece of tape over on my helmet, he says, "Go pick up that cone, Kid Chocolate." Huh? Who the hell is Kid Chocolate? Unbeknownst to me, Kid Chocolate was a Cuban boxer. I thought he called me Kid Chocolate because I was young and I was chocolate as far as my skin complexion, but he was a Cuban boxer that was very popular in the 30s and 40s, I guess. And Coach Wells was up in age, and I think Coach Wells probably was in his 80s when he passed. He was in his 60s when he coached me. So he called me Kid Chocolate one day at practice, and that kind of stuck. So some of my teammates would call me that, but that was it. But up until that point, I didn't have a nickname. Got to college at South Carolina State University, and most of my teammates would call me by my initials, which is KD. And most of the people that I went to school with, that I was really cool with, call me by my initials. And that's kind of like how, if you're ever with me and someone calls me and they call me by my initials, you'll know that I know them from South Carolina State, because that's where most people started calling me by my initials. And then my crew, shout out to the Oceans crew, my crew of my partners that I grew up with, they call me by something different. And if you've listened to the podcast, I know you heard D Love Hall and Easy Does It VA. They call the crew calls me K Dot. And it's not K Dot as in like the nickname for Kendrick Lamar, but somewhere in like 2000, 2001 or something like that. I distinctly remember what happened. We went to a club, and like nobody said like that the club had a dress code. And so I didn't even think to ask, hey, does this club have a dress code? So no, nobody said anything. So, so we all show up at the club. We get to the club at the same time, and my boys, they got on like, jeans and hard bottoms and, collared shirt. And I have the same thing on, but the only difference was I had on a pair of black S. Carter sneakers. And so they almost didn't let me in the club because like you couldn't have on sneakers. But the black S dot sneakers, they look like the Stan Smith joints if you're familiar with sneakers, but they weren't a dress shoe. And I think I ended up, they weren't going to let me in at first. And so the boys were like, man, we can't believe that you came to the club and, you breaking the dress code. I was like, nobody said that you had to get dressed up for this. I was like, it's a freaking club. And so that spawned the nickname because I showed up in some S dots, K dot. So even to this day, and if you've heard the podcast with me and D Love Hall and Easy Does It, I didn't even catch it when we were recording. I caught it after I listened to it. They called me K dot on there several times. That's just what it just depends. It's either KD or K dot, but for the most part with them it's K dot. And to be honest, they are the only ones that I will allow to call me K dot. So it's a long-standing running joke. I think I ended up paying extra to get into that club just because I had on sneakers. But yeah, nicknames. It's always interesting whether or not you're Dre, Ant, Tony, Rick, or whomever. Nicknames are always interesting. The next time that you come across someone who has an interesting nickname, and if you're not sure, ask them how they got that nickname. You'll be surprised. That's going to do it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm your boy 12 Kyle, not K dot, not KD. I'll catch you guys next time. 5Gs.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Today's tip from the injury law firm Greenberg and Betterman. Too many pedestrians lose themselves in their phones and have accidents when they walk. So don't do it. Greenberg and Betterman is here to help you. Contact gblawyers.com, that's gblawyers.com, and feel better.